Everybody, it's a little after 8 o'clock here Eastern Time, 7 Central. Welcome. It's kind of a special meeting that we're going to have, kind of evaluating the response to COVID-19 and the company's response and some of the measures they've implemented. Some good, some not so good, and basically rather than just be the guys that are throwing darts and complaining, like to be able to come up with some good suggestions for them, something based on some experience that they've seen or may have had that help refine the process a little bit. So again, welcome as always. And if anybody else shows on, we'll just try and mention as they get here. So probably what we're going to talk about, a little different format, like I said. We'll look at oil and gas policy reviews, air medical policies that are out. They're pretty close on a lot of things, but there's obviously some things that have air medical specific with patients that are known. Some of the communications that have already gone out between us and management, current status of everything, and you can ignore the suggested acronym. That's dyslexic fingers. Sorry about that. Current policies, again, the PHI actions, and this is not going to be a politics discussion. We're not going to talk about the state of the Democratic or Republican response or anything like that. We're just going to talk specifically about what we're doing. So we're usually pretty good about it, so we'll keep in that tradition. But primarily going to look at ways to make things better. So what came out, I believe on the 17th, was talking about the different precautions that the company was going to take. Everybody has seen it. They did one for air medical and one for oil and gas. They're a little different, but they're substantively the same. Restriction on company travel for non-mission essential, or not, I don't want to say mission essential, but non-critical operations. So mostly office workers have been sent out to their homes that work there, or are working in kind of some weird alternate shift, standby offices kind of thing. So also encouraging everybody to sign up for mission mode if they hadn't already. Some adjustments to recurrent training. Currently, I'm not sure if they've told you guys about this, but essentially the industry has gone to the FAA and has requested a 90-day forbearance on expiration of 297s, 293s, 299s. Same for the 121 guys. So they're looking at that, trying to figure out what's going to happen. So they're hopeful, but to my knowledge, they haven't got anything as of today. Obviously, suggesting remote work for those that can do it. The sick and vacation policies, I think we're all pretty aware of those. On the oil and gas side, it's pretty straightforward. If it's for anything to do with either yourself because you're under quarantine or a shelter-in-place order or something like that, that's going to be covered by the emergency leave or sick leave. And then also, what's a little bit different than in the past, if you're caring for either a child or a family member, direct family, or immediate family rather, then you can use sick leave as well. In the past, you have to use vacation time. Moving on, some additional things that came out. Again, March 19th. So the current policies with the March 19th, the social distancing guidelines that came out, the CDC recommendations, the orders from the governor of Louisiana, and then the travel exemptions saying that, hey, we're all essential, so congratulations, you're essential until we talk about pay again. So forget about that. Communications from us. I sent one to both HR and operations on both sides, air medical and oil and gas, essentially saying, let's talk a little bit about the policies. This is before the policies came out. It was, I think, maybe, I want to say 5 minutes prior to them sending the second letter out with more specific issues or more specific policies on how they're going to manage the travel and the sick leave and vacation. So that came out pretty quick. I was fairly happy with the response. I mean, that's a pretty good turnaround for PHI. So obviously I just got them passing in the night. Lucas sent that safe communication. I'm sure pretty much everyone's aware of that, essentially providing, there was a good response, honestly. I was pretty impressed. Adam Krieger there in Homa. I'm not sure if they've done that. Anybody in Boothville right now? I'm not sure.
Called the Shell aircraft moved to home.
Okay, I just didn't know if they had taken that policy that Wade put out, or not Wade, but Adam put out, and had spread that over to BP and over to down to Boothville, or if it was just a specific Shell Homa policy for now. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. Again, most of those were suggestions Lucas made, so good on you there. Again, there was also an email from Crew Accommodation and Environmental Standards. Lucas again, just poking him. Always like to see that. And
I do not believe we received a response.
I haven't seen one either.
John's pretty tired today, so he wasn't coming to the meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Is there anything else that anybody else sent that I didn't see or get copied on or may have seen that I just didn't mention, forgot about?
There has been some communication about recurrent training in flight safety facilities and the measures that they are taking. I have had a little bit of a dialogue with Greg Johnson about how maybe they can improve things. They led with the fact that the air going into the sims is filtered. Well, this thing, as far as anybody's said, isn't airborne, so it's kind of a moot point. They're only disinfecting once a day, so the point being, well, that's good for the first crew or the first pilots going in, but everybody else after that, it's kind of a free-for-all, and they've provided wipes and things like that, but they haven't provided anything as far as concrete instructions as far as how to wipe down and what to wipe down. They still have their common areas open. So suggested that those get suggested through Greg to flight safety that they close those. Let's see here. Same thing with classrooms as far as this once a day theme in general. And then they mentioned that they're screening wet lease students who are attending training at FSI and forcing exclusions for clients traveling to level 3 areas. I guess we had a pilot come through to do a 297, noticed a bunch of cars in the parking lot, went inside, and there wasn't any real screening measures being taken place. So it's kind of an open in and out, a lot of people inside. So I think we're trying, I believe PHI has Ryan Smith involved. They're trying to address that, but that's what's going on that front.
Okay, cool. Any others that I didn't see or anybody wants to talk about? All right, we'll keep it moving then.
It's not different, but those headset disinfecting wipes, like the Sani cloth that flight safety provides, I've seen some information that those do not disinfect.
They said that they're providing alcohol wipes now. I don't know if they're calling those Sani wipes alcohol wipes. Again, this is this kind of predictable potential misunderstanding of antibacterial measures are not antiviral measures. Like there are appropriate solutions and methods for sanitizing surfaces appropriately.
Yeah. Take some of those Lysol wipes with you. All right. So
Amanda, this wasn't brought up per se, but Amanda was concerned about the offshore accommodations being cleaned, and how they're managing. I know it was brought up about potentially not having pilots stay offshore during this time period. I know it was being discussed, but there hasn't been an answer on it. But even in the meantime, until there is an answer, cleaning for those pilots that have to stay in those conditions.
Sure.
That's a concern. I don't know if that's been addressed with PHI yet.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, right now, then we're plugged into the air medical side, but yeah, if there's some stuff that's going on, like individual managers and stuff like that have been addressing those things, that'd be good to hear about. Let's see. Take a quick note. Of course. All right. So, what's everybody's thoughts? I mean, I know how I feel, but does everybody feel that management that their actions have been appropriate or sufficient to this point, or are they a little lacking?
I think they've been responsive, but I still think there's more than they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been pretty seriously lacking as far as I can tell, basically, at least on the oil and gas side, especially on the lightship side.
Yeah.
There's little to no PPE being done. They only started taking temps, a week ago? And as far as the lightship guys, there's, like I said, they're still having people stay offshore. There's no screening of the people getting on the helicopter. We've had fieldwood guys come in all masked up. Nobody even knew. They get off. We never hear word back whether or not they tested positive or negative or nothing. There's on the lightship side, it's really bad. Like there's just no.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Out of Houma, nearly all the passengers are going through the same terminal right now with the construction. Is that right?
Both are open.
Sorry?
All passengers going out of Houma are going through the SMS Acadiana questionnaire screening and temperature check prior to going into the base. So they are getting on the shuttle from the parking and then getting off the shuttle, being screened, and then being into. So the screening occurs after
the first point of contact entering the passenger handling system, right? That's been my concern here for the last week and a half. Is this shuttle is a four-wheel petri dish potentially, and nobody's looking at it. And even with they're going to be moving exposed and potentially sick people with those who are not. Do we know anything about cleaning measures being done with the people movers or anything beyond that?
I do not.
Okay.
All right. So definitely, I've got that written down as well. So the screening, does everybody think it's? It doesn't seem like it's. I mean, you're taking a temperature, take your survey and see how well you do, and hopefully everything's good. I mean, I think most people are like, I don't feel good, maybe I shouldn't go. So probably taking the temperature is the most effective screen that they actually have.
The blanket answer that I've heard, through a couple different people is that the companies are ensuring that they are not sending any sick passengers to PHI to fly offshore. How they are accomplishing that, I have no idea.
I feel assured. Okay. So as far as the number of passengers been identified, have we had any yet on the oil and gas side? I know on the air medical side we've had several, but that's kind of our thing. So
I'm only familiar with one that was medevaced off the Thunder Horse.
Okay.
17. I'm not familiar with any other cases, but again, that's just word of mouth.
Okay.
The Noble Globetrotter had one today.
Okay. Like that's a known or a potential or a known?
Well, it was a potential, and the Bristow Starbird took him off.
Good.
And then they closed down the helideck for who knows how long.
Okay. Pull out the flamethrowers to disinfect it. All right.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So checkpoints, it seems like they're doing it. I mean, my suggestion would probably be to separate those between employees and passengers rather than, hey, let's all go through the same tent. Whether that takes some.
I personally haven't had any real passenger conflicts in the line. Every time I've showed up for the line, it's just been pilots or PHI personnel.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So the standing policy for that is you don't have to wait in line as an employee. You jump to the front of the line. So you should not necessarily be commingling. And they did have boxes posted on the ground as far as spacing. A couple of them.
Okay.
Kind of worn out.
Is taking a temperature and filling out a questionnaire felt to be an adequate check? I guess my question is somebody who fills out all the yes boxes on the questionnaire and has a temperature, they're already somebody who is highly likely to have been infected, and they are now in this checkpoint system. Like, how does that individual, how are they handled at that point?
Flamethrower.
I think if you answer yes to any of the questions, you get a secondary screening. And then based on that, I had one my first day back. They listened to my lungs, talk a little bit more in depth, and then they either kick you to the curb or sign you off.
So do they have somebody who's like at least a
Currently,
medical assistant, or like somebody that's fairly idea of which end of the stethoscope you're supposed to use, or the thermometer?
They are medics provided by SMS through
Okay.
Acadia.
Okay.
Hey, Gordon, I have a question,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
please.
So what do they do about folks that aren't showing, I mean, just because you have a temperature, don't, more importantly, the folks that don't have a temperature but are carriers, because, you know, what we're seeing is this could be up to 14 days before you even show any signs. So, I mean, that's the issue we're having all over the place, is that the people could be walking through, yeah, they check their temperature, but they have the virus and now they're infecting everyone. I know the Bristol guys told me today that they had 2 rigs that they work on that were shut down or in quarantine. I think they've had 6 medevac cases. And I guess these guys, you guys would know this as well, but they're working, or they live with 3 other guys in the rig. So they take one guy off that's infected and then leave his 3
Right.
roommates on the rig, and, you know, they're infected now. Like, the whole thing, like, man, I feel sorry for you guys. It's a big problem. There's no way to contain this where you guys are working. It's scary, but anyway. Do you as pilots do they give you masks like the N95? Not that there's any available in the country, but do you have any type of gear that they're giving you? Like if you transport a known passenger or anything like that?
No.
Yeah, for the
We don't
medical side, it's
transport
yes,
known
it's
passengers.
known, but not for the oil and gas side. So as yet.
So the air medical side, you have it?
Yeah. So we've got N95s, we've got gloves, we've got gowns, we've got PPE specifically for those cases. But it's treated the same as we would anybody that's got like a TB or any other kind of airborne or potentially airborne respiratory illness that's contagious. So that's all fairly standard. But so we've got a lot of stuff on hand. These guys, it's just good luck. Get a paper towel.
Yeah, right. That's the tough part. It's the unknown. You just don't know who has it and who doesn't. You know, they may not be showing signs of it. It's scary.
Yeah.
How do
Well,
we
that's why
address
we
that
treat
is the question.
So I guess that's the question. Is in light of all this, I mean, I think PHI is doing a good faith effort so far to screen it. It's just they don't have the don't have the capability to do it. Apparently, neither does the government.
Right. There's a lot of blind faith in the fact that the end customer is saying that they're not going to send passengers to the base that are sick. Yeah. And it's a little unclear as to how the customers themselves are making that determination, to Dana's point.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah, I can tell you that at one of the other companies, they take everyone's temperature, and I was told today that every single passenger that went through had exactly 96.4 degrees temperature, which of course is below the actual normal of 98.6. So
somebody left a cap on.
You know, their equipment or their operators, I don't know that I trust that they have the right people even doing those tests. So that's a little scary too. So anyway,
one of the things that's problematic is PHI has agreed to transport sick patients that are not that they don't believe are COVID, which they have no way of testing offshore for that. So I'm not sure how they're making that determination, but if they don't believe that they're COVID patients, but they're sick and they still want them off, then PHI has agreed to move them. They just have to be masked and gloved up, which I think is a really poor decision.
We did the H1N1 stuff a few years ago. That was the kind of same thing. They had the duck masks and they didn't even give us gloves, I don't think. So,
have you guys asked the company that when you're transporting a passenger that is known to be sick, they don't necessarily know because they haven't done the test yet, but have you guys asked, okay, if we're going to be flying on that flight, we should have the N95 just as a precaution? Because, I mean, if you guys start getting sick, then who's going to fly the aircraft, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be their big problem. So I don't know if you guys have made that request to the company or not, but might be something to look at.
That's one of the ones that we're looking at making. So
Right.
let's go and keep rolling through.
Yeah.
Let's see. So these are some of the suggestions that I've heard that I think we can make. Treat all passengers and employees as if they are infected. On the air medical side, any military guys have done the first aid stuff. Universal precautions, basically treat everyone like they are sick. Gloves, mask, when you go in and come out. So every hospital you go to, at least in an ER or in an ICU, you got a sign that says foam in and foam out. So they got an antibacterial like wash or hand sanitizer outside of the room before you walk in. So you walk in, hand sanitizer, get in, gloves, leave the room, drop the gloves off in the hazmat or the bio waste, and then scrub out. And do it that way. I think it'd be a good thing to do for us entering and exiting the buildings to say, hey, whether it's hand sanitizer or soap or something else, but get some signs, make people aware, because that's the best thing we can really do that we have some control over. Wiping down the surfaces between aircraft flights with like actual wipes, not like paper towels, but like bleach them, all the other good stuff.
Do we know what they're using to actually clean?
I have no idea. That's something we're gonna have to basically engage them on and say, look, it needs to be an antiviral, not just a antibacterial, since magic doesn't necessarily work for both. Some stuff does, some stuff doesn't. Bleach is great, so it does a pretty good job of killing everything. But I'm not sure if they're using bleach. I don't even know if they're even having people, what their process is or who they're taking out to do it, whether it's the mechanics, whether it's the janitorial staff, or what they're doing.
We've been told that we could wipe down all the surfaces in the cockpit with the Clorox wipes. Mm-hmm. But the ones that they happen to have gotten us are the bleach-free ones on all surfaces except for like LCD screens or anything like that.
Right.
Are there any like alcohol supplies at the base? Like
we've got
alcohol or isopropyl alcohol?
Not really. There's a jug of hand sanitizer.
I mean, like in the maintenance supplies, that.
Don't know.
Bleach or chlorine products are obviously going to be very good, but that's also good. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know
bleach
anything.
Bleach-free Clorox wipes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be one to.
Yeah. Not great. But between all the flights, not just between the ones where we think we might maybe possibly have somebody that was sick, or we know there was somebody that was sick, but essentially we end up treating every flight as if we just flew somebody in that was, and we act and wear the PPE to treat every passenger as if they are sick. Again, separating the entry and exit points for the employees and the passengers, maybe that's necessary, maybe it's not, maybe that's a time thing, but it sounds like it's not really a huge issue. Minimizing the time spent at the base, just like Lucas was saying, kind of getting a little more innovative with how we handle, basically doing everything except walking in to pick up the EFB and then walking right back out again. But all your fuel load, you're planning, do it in your room, call in the fuel load, and then let them know that you're ready to go. That would be my suggestion. Minimizing occupancy of the trailers, maximize use of the hotels we can. In my mind, if you have more than 2 people in those trailers right now, that's a really bad idea. If everybody has their own bathroom, because we know that probably people aren't wiping down the bathroom after they use it. And then utilizing those dedicated aircraft for known cases or known or suspected cases, whether that's us or whether they continue to use Bristow or Era, using the SAR aircraft from those guys to do that. And then obviously, an article that a lot of people have seen about using boats. That's probably a pretty good way of handling that as well for some of those platforms. Obviously, the ones that have also come out have been the offshore stuff. So I'd recommend not staying offshore at all. That seems like a terrible idea right now. And then the people movers, moving those or trying to get those cleaned between each go back and forth. And maybe just not even using those people movers. Have people drop their bags off and then go park their cars and then come back. I mean, that seems like a much better idea than, again, the 4x4 Petri dish.
I mean,
I heard yesterday. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, all over the country, they're having drive-through testing. So I don't know what would prevent them from testing the passengers as they drive into the lot, while they're still in their vehicle.
Right.
And then prior to getting out of their vehicle, knowing whether they can continue on or not. I mean, it'll slow down the process a little bit, but the decisions that I've seen being made by PHI so far are ones that do not inconvenience the customers to any degree. I feel like that's not necessarily the best practice for employees or passengers. Everything else in the country has been inconvenienced. So why not accept a little bit here to bump the safety up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard yesterday that E&I was.
Go ahead.
I heard yesterday that E&I's boats are not allowing any passengers on the boats whatsoever. So they've already nipped that. So the boat travel in the last slide that's probably going to start trickling down.
Yeah. Okay. Any other hard suggestions before we end the recording? We're getting ready to run about 6 minutes left. So before we hit our.
I like the suggestion I came up with the other day about if you're not scheduled, you don't come in. Mm-hmm. One of the responses I got to that was, it's in the GOM that we have to run up. And I didn't quite understand the reasoning behind it. An uncovered aircraft sits on the flight line, it's not run up. There are ways to go about it. The DO has the authority to
authorize deviation. Yep.
Certain things for a certain period of time. And, my point was not to run up the aircraft prior to flight, but it was merely on those days where you're not scheduled or you're not anticipated to be a backup or something. That example I used in my safety comm, there was 14 people there that didn't have to be there at all. Not a single one, right? So you have this large amount of time of exposure available. So right now, they're staggering the sign-in times, but they're still all, within an hour and a half in the morning. So you still have a large group of people going through one door, one hallway. All the bases are very small. So they're encouraging people not to do planning in the flight planning room, but it's still a small facility. So, going outside and posting up outside when it's 80 degrees out.
Yeah.
It's not really a good option. And flight planning as a crew, to me, seems like a fairly important thing to do. At least on the dual pilot side, it's a challenging thing to accomplish. They mentioned briefly that they were going to attempt to limit pilots swapping between crews. I don't know to what extent they're going to take that suggestion. I personally thought, it should be a pretty hard and fast rule.
Yeah, I mean,
they jump around nonstop.
Yeah, I think that's an easy suggestion. It shouldn't be too difficult to implement, especially with the reduced passenger Karen we're going to be doing. So,
I mean, they responded to those things, but I think the amount of impact to the customer is minimal. You know, or if an aircraft breaks after you run it up in the morning, you know, you're going to accept a little bit of a delay. I think now, if you explain it that way to the customer, they'd be willing to accept a little bit of a delay overall, rather than the alternative of
sure.
Closing.
So apparently it looks like we're gonna, the letter I'm gonna send, I'll send it to everybody first. It's on the message group and the email. Well, I'll send it out. It's basically a combination of the letter Lucas sent out, the one I already sent out again, and the one that you guys sent out for environmental standards, and just a couple of additional suggestions we had for tonight. Obviously, big emphasis on PPE. I think everybody agrees that's a no-brainer. As much as we can do with that. So we get something signed up, or I'll draft something up, send it out to everybody, let everybody take a cut, and then we'll get this shot off hopefully in the next day or two. And that's pretty much that. Any save rounds? Anybody got any additional great ideas that we haven't covered?
You may want to consider mentioning the pilots in Lafayette. I don't know that they're being scanned prior to coming into work.
Okay.
So again, like they're saying, the lightship side of the house is being vastly overlooked, and the big customers, BP and Shell, are kind of rolling the day.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
We know how many offshore-based aircraft we have?
I do not know. I don't know if they're scanning passengers and pilots in ERAT.
Yeah.
Right.
Most likely not, because it's a customer facility, but if it's good enough for one base, it should be good enough for home.
Yeah, there should be a standard. So we'll go ahead and get that put together. We've got less than a minute left on this, so I'll go ahead and close this meeting out. And if anybody wants to stick around, I'll start it up. We'll have the after party. If anybody's got any questions. So basically, what we'll do is go in the recording now. And there we go.